What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick. Sherdog.com is the website. I am the host, Devin. Back with another episode. I apologize for being a day late. I am not a dollar short, but I'm a day late. Yesterday was my spouse's birthday. It was her birthday. And I decided to not record a podcast. I thought that was the responsible, nice, kind thing to do. So here I am on my lunch break on Tuesday recording this. It is April 22nd. You guys will listen to this on April 23rd or however later in the week. Sooner better than later, guys. Come on. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys all had a good week. And we are coming off of a weekend of no UFC, but we did have some MMA, some super great value MMA. That's what PFL has become, unfortunately. But we're going to talk about it. PFL had an okay card this past Friday evening. We're going to talk about 3 fights real quick. I'm going to kind of breeze through it. Was going to kind of save this for after my PFL talk, but I think I'm just going to lead with it because it's the most talked about thing and it's the most important thing that I learned from this PFL card personally. And it's regarding Dakota Ditcheva. I know I'm kind of shuffling the deck in my process and the way I outline the show, but I'm just going to chuck this into the intro. I know we're at the first segment of the show. We're going to kind of skip the middle segment and we're just going to breeze through 1 and 2. Dakota Ditcheva is the biggest star that the PFL has right now. I would even say that including Francis Ngannou. And maybe social media followers and stuff, it looks different, but Francis Ngannou is at the end of his road. He's at the end of the road. Would not be surprised if Francis never fights again, or if he fights one more time, and that includes all combat sports, boxing, MMA, a wild karate combat fight against Rebellis to Spain could maybe happen in the future as a second fight. I don't think that shit's going to happen. I think Francis is done. On the other hand, they have Dakota Ditcheva, who is very far from done, who wants to fight 4 times a year. And she went on the PFL broadcast, and the PFL announced that she was there watching the fights, and they announced that she has a fight coming up with a date, but no name. Huge fumble, in my opinion. PFL, if you are promoting this girl and you're going to drag her there, you're going to make her, talk to Sean O'Connell and Randy Couture, and you're going to shove a microphone in her hand and put her up there, have a date for her. She wants to fight. Have an opponent. It's just very typical PFL. And in typical PFL fashion, Fabian Edwards defeats Impa Kasanganay via second round knockout. He finished him in the second round with strikes. This is a really weird fight. And I've never had a good read on Fabian Edwards, and I've never really had a good read on Impa Kasanganay. I've always probably overestimated him because his comeback story is so huge. But he did make it all the way to the finals, in the championships last year at 205. Prior to that, he won the $1 million. Honestly, good for him for winning before than now, because the prize bag has been cut in half. Anyway, he got knocked out not too long ago, and he got knocked out again by Fabian Edwards in a fight that was real 50-50. Yeah, Fabian Edwards won the first round, but even through the second round, Impa was kind of winning that second round and wobbled Fabian Edwards several times up into the point where he got finished. Impa was just kind of leaping into the pocket and throwing big hooks, and Fabian Edwards is just the exact same fighter as his brother Leon Edwards as far as what they do, how they do things. If you are going to crash the pocket and crush space against them, they like to throw a lot of elbows, and that's he crushed Impa's elbow. Crushed Impa with the elbow right above his eye, right above his eyebrow, had Impa's eyebrow kind of split up a little bit. And they're both, there's a lot of kind of unnecessary clinch fighting in this fight. Impa was having his success kind of swarming Fabian, putting him on the back foot. But then all of a sudden, it was really weird in the second round. Fabian was kind of it seemed like, this fight's turning. And then all of a sudden, Fabian just kind of turned it on, hit Impa with a glancing shot, and then went and finished him through a jump knee in the sequence that missed, but just decided to just go step on the gas and actually went out there and finished somebody. It was really surprising that he got this finish, because I've never been super high on Fabian Edwards. And then for Impa, I'm super surprised that he got finished in this way. But I do think that Impa's a guy that's got a lot of athleticism, a lot of power. Up at 205, he was really big up at 205, small but like kind of diesel, but just faster than everybody. And he didn't seem to have that speed advantage against Fabian Edwards in this fight. He seemed to be the probably the bigger and heavier puncher, but also maybe just the less tactful brute of the two. And I think Fabian Edwards was just able to use his tactics and land a lot of shots in this fight and set Impa up. I also think Impa's chin might just be gone. Like, he got smoked his last time out. He got knocked out again, and he didn't look like he got hit really hard. He's been knocked out in fights before, obviously, a la Joaquin Buckley, the most viral knockout, the most beautiful knockout. I don't want to say the best knockout in UFC history, but like, if you got a compilation of like, you want to see some cool shit, and if you're just like showing someone highlights, like the Joaquin Buckley knockout over Impa Kasanganay should be the first thing you show somebody. If you were the UFC trying to sell shit to investors like the PFL's trying to do, you show them that clip. So cool finish by Fabian Edwards. He moves on. He moves on in the bracket. Impa, tough loss for him, but I think this is probably best case scenario for Impa as far as like having to take a break, because this PFL, once this tournament shit gets rolling, like they expect these guys to, be firing off fights, win, lose, or draw, especially if you're, leaving the division. Like Impa went from 205 to 185, entered this brand new tournament, and he's kind of, now he's going to be forced to rest and recoup, which is probably good for him. Moving on, the co-main event from this was Rabadanov taking on Diakiese. Diakiese was the longtime UFC vet that kind of parted ways with the UFC and joined the PFL roster and decided to jump in this lightweight tournament. Start of this fight, he's throwing big kicks, spinning wheel kicks at Rabadanov, and Rabadanov just like catches one kick, throws a big hook, misses, but kind of takes down Diakiese, and then hits him with these 3 ground and pound punches that like absolutely fucking kill him. Really dangerous and really scary looking ground and pound, and the fight's over. Rabadanov is a dude that is now on like a 10 or 11 fight win streak. He was a boring fighter. A lot of people called him what they like to call the Dagestani fighters. If you're new here, you can just browse Twitter and you'll probably see what I'm talking about. This dude is one of the main, guys from Eagles MMA, from Habib's team. Wasn't getting a lot of finishes. All of a sudden, he just started smoking dudes, started messing people up. So another scalp to Rabadanov's, he could add the other scalp to his wall. Diakiese, he's a little bit older. He's definitely long in the tooth, and a lot of these younger guys coming up, we saw it earlier on this card as well with Clay Collard. I love Clay Collard. I love his game. I love how he's like a willing body puncher in MMA, and he was having a ton of success, and he just got like smoked with this crazy ass spinning elbow earlier on this card as well. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to that, but go watch that fight. It was cool. Interesting finish. But yeah, like not a shit ton to say about this, because the fight lasted like 36 seconds or something crazy. Go watch it back. Like you could literally fit the clip on Instagram. Rabadanov, it seems to just have turned the page, and he had a really cool post-fight speech where he basically said, like, I'm not in here to hurt people. I care about these people. I want to make sure they go home. But at the same time, like, I need to be in here finishing fights. I'm really, really summing it up, giving it in layman's terms. But yeah, it was pretty freaking cool. Moving on, we had Sadibou Sy taking on Dalton Rosta, and Rosta's huge, number one. He's a ginormous person. Number two, he went out there and kind of just shit kicked Sadibou Sy. He looked pretty freaking good in this fight. Sadibou is a guy that is known to have... I've never been super hype on Sadibou Sy. He's been known to have like good kickboxing. He's got that one viral head kick where he was like a plus 4,000 favorite on the live line before knocking out his super overmatched opponent. Either way, Sadibou Sy is a known guy. especially in the PFL. And Dalton Rosta just kind of went out there and shit kicked him. Just he didn't run him over, but it's pretty darn close to that. Pushed him against the cage, hurt him with big shots in the first round. In the second round, did something very similar. He was using his wrestling really well. I was concerned he was going to gas out. And no, I mean, he looked huge. He looked strong. His wrestling looked good. His tenacity was there. His power was there. And even in the first round, like he was really pushing Sadibou up against the cage and really going for takedowns and mixing in his striking. Did not look good technically, but it looked great because he was willing to just use that to mix in his wrestling. Like, what a better way to, close the distance, close the pocket, and, put hands on your opponent than just like swinging big hammers, especially when you're a big jacked fucking dude like that. And yeah, that's what he did at the end of the first round, though. He gets a takedown on Sadibou with like 10 seconds left in the first round. And I'm like, as a veteran, like an MMA veteran, a dude like Volk, maybe, or something like that, or even maybe Bilal would have tried to keep some of their stamina, keep some of their, wind in their lungs and not get tired by chasing that takedown. They knew they probably already had that round in the bag and they could have probably just clinched him against the cage. But no, Dalton was like, F this, I'm taking this dude down to prove a point with like 10 seconds left. Got on top, landed a tiny bit of ground and pound. Okay, first round expired. Second round, did the same thing, but really hurt C against the cage. C is just very willing to be kind of low volume, throw a lot of body kicks. And he had a little bit of success with kicks to the body. But like, if you pause this and just Google search up, go to Sherdog.com or wherever you want, go to Sherdog, and just find a picture of Dalton Rosta. Yeah. I don't think I could hurt this dude to the body with a baseball bat. He's fucking chiseled out of stone, jacked as shit. So the body kicks didn't really, he kind of smiled him off a little bit the way Gene Silva kind of did it to Bryce. Club Sadibou with a big shot against the cage, hurt him again, took him down, kind of club and subbed him, got in the guillotine, got in the mount with the guillotine, and then they both kind of rolled over on their sides and he choked Sadibou to sleep. Really impressive performance. It's really funny. He took the Valor energy drinks and just did like the Stone Cold Steve Austin, like on top of the cage. Like, you're not the last fight, bro. Like, other people got, like, there's 2 more fights on this card. You could just fucking spill an energy drink all over the place. That wraps up the first segment of the show. Out with the old. We're going to jump straight in with the new. UFC is in Kansas City this weekend. This fight card is headlined by Carlos Prates, my 2025 Sherdog MMA draft pick, taking on Ian Machado Garry. We're going to talk about 3 fights, that being one of them. That's the last one we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 2 other fights from the undercard that I have hand selected because I just like them as fights and I think they'll be cool. And no, it's not the co-main event. I love Anthony Smith. I've always been an Anthony Smith dude, but I don't want to. You guys have been listening to the show for a while. This is kind of how I felt about Tony Ferguson on his way out. I was never a huge Tony guy, but it's, talking about this fight may bring me great sadness. So I'm just going to skip it. David Onama and Giga Chikadze is cool, but I don't even think that's the best fight on this card. I would like to talk about Evan Elder and his former opponent, but I don't know if the things I want to say are appropriate. But I do know that Evan Elder's former opponent, who will remain nameless. Oh my God. Is been charged with some pretty serious crimes, and if they are true, he can go to hell. If those are true, I'm assuming they probably are. He should be really worried right now because the president of the United States has a pretty scary prison down in El Salvador, and I'm pretty sure this guy is here like on a visa of some sort, and the crimes he committed are pretty grotesque. And Dana White and Trump are pretty cool friends, so it's not a guy that probably wants to be on nobody wants to be on anybody's radar for these types of things he's been accused for. But what he did was real terrible, and he made disappear to an El Salvadorian prison because of it. All right. I'm not even going to edit out me like stuttering over the phrase remain nameless because it's funny, but I literally almost just messed it up again. First fight we're going to talk about Andre Muniz taking on Ikram Aliskerov. This fight has been booked several times, but I feel like we're finally going to maybe get it this week, hopefully. Odds on this fight, Ikram is a huge favorite. He's a minus 500 favorite. Andre Muniz is coming in at plus 375. It's almost like the Robert Whittaker fight never happened. It never happened. No, I'm kidding. Ikram's last time out, he got smoked by Robert Whittaker, got pushed up against the cage, got hit with big shots, got caught with the uppercut. It's really funny because he's been finished. He's only got 2 losses in his career. They both come via uppercut, and they both come against, really good dudes. On the Contender Series, he won via Kimura. He knocked out Phil Hawes, TKO'd Warley Alves, the jump knee, and then punches, lost to Robert Whittaker, and then now he's a minus 500 favorite against Andre Muniz. Andre Muniz, man, this dude, we were all like hella hype on him. When he like broke Jacare's arm back in 2021. Yeah, he then he arm barred Eric Anders right after that. He beat Uriah Hall. And he looked pretty bad against Brendan Allen, but I think the worst, his worst fight, he looked really bad against Paul Craig. And Paul Craig, and he's freaking Paul Craig. We love to root for Paul Craig, but he's not good. His last time out, he did beat the Iron Turtle Jung Young Park in a split decision where I kind of thought he lost that fight, but clearly we all know Ikram's good. He's a Dagestani dude that's got pretty good wrestling, pretty good striking, pretty good power. He can get caught in exchanges. I mean, look at his 2 losses, but a guy like Andre Muniz isn't a super big threat there. I also don't know why Ikram Aliskerov is a minus 500 favorite. Like, yes, he's very good, but like he's still super unproven. And the time that he went up again, I mean, Robert Whittaker's a former champion. The difference between Robert Whittaker and Warley Alves on short notice and Phil Hawes are like, I don't know, you might as well have the difference between me and Francis Ngannou. Like, I'm kidding. But just huge difference in talent and opponents. It's like, he went from fighting the 200th ranked dude in the world to the 3rd or top 5 ranked dude in the world, like former champions Robert Whittaker. Yeah, that could happen. It also was on short notice, even though he was the one that was training for a camp. He had some excuses about having to fly. I'm not going to call them excuses. He had some reasons having to fly from like Vegas to Abu Dhabi or wherever, and that was his big opportunity. He lost it. In this fight, Andre Muniz is going to really, I think he's going to really struggle in this fight because I don't see how he's a grappler with bad takedowns. But he really likes back control. Like, he's very good there. He's a big dude. He's huge. Andre Muniz's back is super wide. When he gets on someone's back, he literally looks like a turtle shell. And he has an armbar game. Like, that's his thing. Like, weird, big dude with like a semi tactful, technical BJJ game. Like, that's just his thing. I don't know if that works against Ikram Aliskerov because Muniz has shown quite a bit of deficiencies with the stand-up. I'm gonna pick Ikram here in this fight, but I don't think he's done anything to warrant in the UFC, at least. Yeah, I know he was like an ACA champion prior to the UFC and everything. That's cool. Comes from an incredible camp, but like, you beat Phil Hawes and you beat Warley Alves, like 2 huge, just 2 guys that are not, neither one of them are UFC level. As the bout order goes, we're actually only going to bump up 1 fight. We're not going to go to the Coleman event. We're not going to go to, the featured fight. We're not going to talk about Michel Pereira versus Abus Magomedov. We're going to talk about Randy Brown versus Nicolas Dalby because unless it's a pay-per-view that's really, really stacked, I'm always going to try to talk about a Nicolas Dalby fight because I love his fighting style. He's a super cool dude, and I just love what he does, as the old dog. Odds on this fight, Randy Brown is a pretty hefty favorite. I have not looked at these lines. I've done my little write-ups, my little tape study prior to this. But I don't look at the lines until I, hop on and start talking about it because I don't want to be swayed while I'm making my decisions. But yeah, Nicolas Dalby is a plus 210, plus 205 underdog. Randy Brown's coming at minus 250 and minus 245 at the two places I'm looking. This is an interesting fight. Nicolas Dalby, he's got 23 wins with 5 losses, and he's this is a guy that's never been finished. And if you go and look at his fight in the Cage Warriors, where the fight like had to be stopped via no contest because of just like all the blood and everything against Ross Houston, like that should tell you. If you go to Sherdog.com, it's listed as a no contest. Marc Goddard stopped this via unsafe surface because there was just so much blood. Mind you, this wasn't like a doctor stoppage due to blood loss. Like there's just so much blood. An incredible fight. After that, he made it back to the UFC. And yeah, he's lost to dudes like Tim Means back in 2021. That's not a bad loss. And he was on a 1, 2, 3, 4 fight win streak. And then last time out, he lost to Rinat Fakhardinov, and I thought he got robbed. I don't want to say robbed. Okay. I thought he won that fight. It was very close, but Rinat Fakhardinov is a really good dude. We're going to talk about a little someone named Brian Battle that just beat Randy Brown and Randy Brown's last time out that, we're playing MMA math here, but Fakhardinov smoked this dude in Brian Battle. And Dalby had a war with Fakhardinov and arguably won. Randy Brown, he's got 19 wins, 6 losses. He, however, has been finished. He got clubbed and subbed by JDM. He got knocked out real bad by Vincente Luque. He got knocked out really bad off of his back by Nico Price. Bilal Muhammad didn't knock him out. Michael Graves clubbed and subbed him with a rear naked choke. So all of his losses, really, besides one, and the Brian Battle one, he gets finished a lot. In a fight like this, I don't see Nicolas Dalby finishing Randy Brown, but watching the tape on this, I just don't see how Randy Brown is going to be one fight removed from this Brian Battle fight where he really got pushed up against the cage. He was really willing to take the back foot and kind of, I don't want to say got mugged in the clinch, but like Brian Battle was really able to slow this fight down, push him against the cage, hit him with shots to the body, control him in the clinch. And like, what does Nicolas Dalby absolutely thrive doing? That he's durable as hell. He's got a good forward pressure game. He's got decent boxing, really, really good cardio, good grappling. And if this fight remains at range, Randy Brown's going to be throwing teep kicks at Dalby. Randy Brown's going to be throwing tons of stuff straight down the middle, trying to stop the forward pressure from Nicolas Dalby. But I don't think that's going to be enough to stop him unless he knocks Dalby down or hurts him really badly. But go to Sherdog.com and go look through Dalby's record and tell me how many times he's been knocked out. Out of these two dudes, Randy Brown is by far the less durable guy. I don't think he has the same cardio as Nicolas Dalby. I think he's a more dangerous striker than Dalby, but I don't know if that's going to really matter in a fight like this. Brian Battle came in like super fat and like effed up and missed weight in that fight. And like, he didn't even look good and he still was able to squeak out a win against Randy Brown. I think this is just going to look like an amplified version of that fight with more offense. Look what he was able to do against Gabriel Bonfim. Gabriel Bonfim is a far more dangerous dude offensively, in my opinion, than Randy Brown, as far as, with the striking and his submission ability. Go look at his record. It'll tell you that. And he was able to, weather the storm, come back and really F that dude up. Give me Nicolas Dalby to really have like a junkyard dog ass fight, push Randy Brown against the cage, hit him with shots to the body, make him tired, take him down, let him back up, forward pressure with the boxing. Brandy Brown is significantly taller than Dalby. I think Dalby is going to win the head position game against the cage. He's going to take the top of his head, smash it up into Randy Brown's neck, crush him with shots to the body. And I'm just rooting for like a 40-year-old dude that's an old dog that's had, I'm not here to tell you Nicolas Dalby's life story, but go look into this dude. You'll be rooting for him if you know his story. Moving on to the final fight of the card. We're going to talk about the main event, of course, because it's got Carlos Prates. It's going to help me win again the Sherdog MMA draft for 2025. I was the winner last year. He's going to win it again for us. I'm only kidding. Carlos Prates is taking on Ian Machado Garry. Odds on this fight. Currently, Ian Garry is a slight favorite. When I looked earlier this week, it was a pick'em. Right now, Ian Garry is a minus 125, 128 favorite. Carlos Prates coming in at plus 107, plus 110 as a dog. So it looks like a little tiny bit of money's been coming in on Ian Garry. This is a real interesting fight. Ian Garry, young dude, 27 years old, 15-1 record. His last time out was his very first loss in his career where, in a loss, it was his best win. Where he took on the, crazy feared Shavkat Rakhmonov, and he went out there and had a real close fight with the dude and won moments and won rounds against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Carlos Prates is a dude that does not have, even with one loss, that's still like a squeaky clean record for MMA. Carlos Prates, 21-6, the fighting nerd, but he hasn't lost a fight since 2019, and that was in one championship. He's currently on a hell of a streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. He's on an 11 fight win streak. And a lot of those are finishes. 10 of them are finishes. This should be a really, really cool fight. Ian Garry has definitely taken on the better opponents in the UFC than Carlos Prates. Ian Garry as a fighter is a dude that I feel like he's changed his game as he's gotten a little bit older in the UFC. Like, when he fought Jordan Williams, he got hurt really, really bad, but then came back to finish Jordan Williams. He beat Darian Weeks, who just wasn't that great, beat Gabe Green in a semi-close fight, knocked out Kanan Song, where he got hurt really, really bad in that fight and came back to win that fight. Since then, he had that really cool head kick against D-Rod, beat Neil Magny, had a really close fight against Jeff Neal, and then, that MVP fight and then the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight. Something that really sticks out to me, looking at the tape, looking at how a lot of Ian Garry's fights have gone down is, and I know it's been a while, but his Jordan Williams fight and his Kanan Song fight. He has become way more risk averse and way more willing to fight with the game plan. Before, I really do think Ian Garry probably thought he was the best striker in the division and one of the best strikers in the UFC. And he was really, really willing to go tit for tat with dudes and box with guys. And I think that's his weakest point, is his boxing defense and his boxing in general. Like, he's got pretty good offensive boxing, but Kanan Song nearly fucking killed him. Jordan Williams nearly fucking killed him. MVP crushed him with a big shot, forcing Ian Garry to wrestle immediately. All up into that fight, Ian Garry's like, I can strike with this guy. I can strike with this guy. Immediately got clipped once and was turned into a wrestler. And then against Shavkat Rakhmonov, used his range and was good in the clinch and used his wrestling. I think Ian Garry's a better wrestler than more people realize. And I think he's way more willing to have a fight that is lower volume, a slower pace, but he's really concerned about making mistakes, which kind of makes him have like a negative game where I could understand why people just don't love him. Just because he's become just a more responsible fighter all around. Unfortunately for him, having high fight IQ has made him less dangerous and less finishes, and a lot of his fights are going to probably look like this moving forward. So don't be surprised if this fight's just like an absolute snoozer. It could totally be an absolute snoozer. Now, Carlos Prates is very different. He's got pretty good wrestling defense. His Trevin Giles fight, Trevin Giles is an okay wrestler. He didn't look great in that fight up until he got that finish. But man, since then, not only has he looked good, but he's looked pretty fucking amazing. The way that he finished Radke with that knee to the body, showing his intelligence and his fight IQ. And this is what I mean by fight IQ, where like when it comes to striking, Carlos Prates' fight IQ is very high level, and that makes him dangerous. It's a little bit different than Ian Garry's fight IQ, making him more defensively responsible and just more responsible all around. That's just kind of made him less dangerous. This is only my opinion. But the way he fucked up the leech, like no one's knocked out the leech. He was lining the leech up with that straight left over and over again. And then the way he knocked out Neil Magny, he like face planted Neil Magny. That was kind of sad. So this is a step up. Ian Garry had a lot of wrestling success against MVP because MVP, as cool and as awesome as a striker that he is all MVP knows how to do is be very, very quick and jump from kicking range to boxing range like that. Like he can clear like 10 feet. It's incredible. But if you are literally all of MVP's striking leads him into the clinch. And that's where Ian Garry was able to get takedowns. But he was getting stung. Like MVP would leap in with the elbow, crush Ian Garry with an elbow. Ian Garry gets the takedown because he's just crushing the distance. Carlos Prates won't do that. Carlos Prates has got a long reach, and he's got good boxing, good kicks, good knees. He's got very good, he'll, manipulate his opponent's guard like he did with, Charles Radke. He's like, oh, you've got to, because Charles Radke's got a really good check hook. He's like, oh, watch me just take this shit away. Grabs his lead hand, takes away the check hook, pushes Radke against the cage, just by closing the distance, and then crushes him with the knee to the body. Real cool, intelligent shit. The way he was lining up his rear hand against the leech was incredible. The way he dropped the leech and was just like, come on up, buddy. Like literally treated him like it, like it was a Muay Thai or boxing match. Mind you, this guy does have an incredible combat sports career in Muay Thai. When I say incredible, just lengthy. Wasn't a champion or anything like that. But like straight up Thai, Muay Thai. If Ian Garry wins this fight, it's going to be really boring. And I do feel like it's, outside of the odds, if I could just give a percentage, I would say it's like 55% Ian Garry winning a boring decision where there's a lot of grappling, a lot of wrestling, a lot of, just forcing Carlos Prates against the cage, and a 45% chance that Carlos Prates hurts Ian Garry. But because Carlos Prates is my pick for the 2025 Sherdog MMA Fantasy, I'm not going to go against my boy. Give me Carlos Prates to finally be the person that really makes Ian Garry pay for his striking deficiencies. If he forces Ian Garry into, I just don't know if many dudes in this division are forced to have 10 striking, exchanges with Carlos Prates. I don't know if it goes well for them. He's got 5 rounds to work. Ian Garry can finish people. He's really good at setting people up, but I don't think he's going to be setting up Carlos Prates with the head kick the same way he set up D-Rod. I don't see that happening. D-Rod is old and slow. Carlos Prates has better vision. I do think he's the better striker. He's not the better all-around fighter, but I do think he's the better striker and the more just venomous with way more tools. When Ian Garry forces the clinch, I think he's going to be working on elbows. Look what happened 2 weeks ago with Gene Silva. The fighting nerds are rolling. Look at Kyle Ohio. He's freaking, waving his flag for a title shot. This is going to be like one of the harder fight nerds fights, a shorter camp for these dudes. Carlos Prates has been freaking smoking grits in between rounds here. So I'm not extremely faithful, but I'm not extremely hopeful. But Give me Carlos Prates to hurt Ian Garry multiple times in this fight, and that banks him 3 rounds. I don't think he finishes Ian Garry, but I think he can hurt him and just bank rounds that way. And I think he might lose 2 rounds that are ugly. But I think he could hurt Ian Garry in 3 of them. So give me Carlos Prates to win a decision, 48-47, where he, wins the striking and gets out wrestled or out clinched against the cage for 2 rounds. That is the show, guys. I really, really appreciate all of you for tuning in. Please leave me a comment. Please like this, follow Sherdog, listen to all the other shows. If you like this show, I'm sure you're listening to the other ones, but there's many other great shows that Sherdog hosts. So please go listen to all of those shows. Go to Sherdog.com. Go check out the Fight Finder. Until then, enjoy the fights, and thank you for tuning in.